Welcome to Sappho Music Monday. I'm your host, Keitaro Harada. This episode is made possible by Charles C. Taylor and Samir Nikochevich Charitable Foundation.
My name is Jeana Melilli, and I am the principal flute of the Savannah Philharmonic, and I've played with the orchestra since the very first concert back in 2007.
And Gina, where are you from?
I'm from Stockbridge, Georgia, which is a little town southeast of Atlanta, and I grew up going to all-state band and stuff like that in Savannah, so it's always been a place to visit.
Tell me what it's like to be playing principal flute in an orchestra.
It's, my seat is the best seat. I get to be inside all of those chords, and I get to work with these really great other wind players and make a lot of fun musical decisions to fit in the fabric of the orchestra.
Tell me if you have any particular concert that you're looking forward to next season.
There are a lot of really great concerts that are coming up. I'm excited to hear Sinisha play the Sibelius Violin Concerto and Kristen play the Vapor Clarinet Concerto. I'm really looking forward to playing the Augusta Reed Thomas piece at the end of the season, the last concert, because I got to work with her when I was working at Agnes Scott as a flute professor, and her music is really, it's just really fun and really well crafted. But particularly the first concert, the opening concert with Shostakovich 5, which is just such a classic orchestral piece. And it was one that I used to listen to my mom's old band recording of their transcription playing the last over and over again when I was, a little flute player. So it's always fun to get to do the whole thing.
Do you come from a musical family?
Sort of. My dad is not musical. I think he played the trumpet for 2 seconds and then stopped, but he's a very supportive. And my mom was a clarinetist and wanted to go to school for music, but wasn't able to get to college. But she was the one who really cultivated my musical background, and she started me in piano lessons when I was 5 and then moved on to flute when it was time to play. So.
How are you spending your time during these quarantine days?
It's been really rough, but luckily I am also getting a PhD in musicology, and those classes have moved online. So I'm spending my days researching and writing papers and taking classes, and I'm also working with several colleagues through things like the Acapella app to try and continue to work through this time, so continue to be able to play together, and a lot of us have challenged each other to play etudes and post them on social media. And then I have about 6 or 7 flute students who are still taking online lessons with me, and so that's been keeping me busy as well to keep up with them.
So Gina, you are the Baroque music girl in our orchestra. Tell us a little bit more about your activities and your training.
So I play the one-keyed flute, the Baroque flute which is the flute of Bach and Handel and Vivaldi and all those people. And I started that, there was a flute camp in the North Carolina mountains, and Stephen Preston, who's a great Baroque flutist, was there. And I was actually taking part in a master class with William Bennett, who's a famous flutist. And I walked across the way to the Stephen Preston class and never left because I had never heard sounds like that out of the Baroque flute. And so I started to study it, and I finally got good instruments. And I wasn't really able to play with a group until about 5 or 6 years ago. And Anne Acker, who's played harpsichord with us many times, helped start Savannah Baroque. And so a few of us play in that on original instruments. And I also have a group in Columbia, South Carolina called the Vista Ensemble. We do early classical, so Clementi and Dussek and all these great composers you haven't heard of. But it's a different sound. It's for a smaller room. It's quieter instruments. It's a different sort of intonation and a different expectations of performance, and it's just really fun to do.
And there's a lot of improvisation too.
Right. So you start to learn the formulas that they would use for ornamentation, which is a sort of improvisation. And the basic thing you learn is that the notation in front of you is not the music. It's sort of a guide. And that is very freeing when you learn that, even though we can play something like by Mahler, who's very controlling in all of his markings, it still gives you the sense of control that you have over what you're producing, that you're more in touch with the music because you're thinking and along these lines. So it really helps to study that period in particular. It really informs all the rest of music that's happening even today.
It's wonderful that you are touching base and learning and also performing music from multiple different eras, not just the contemporary, but also from the Baroque.
Right. It's just, it's a huge, I mean, the flute has almost always existed, so it's great to really study it. And it's tied into the history of the orchestra too, because we weren't loud enough, and that's why we're made of silver now, so that we can keep up.
And I think not many people realize that too, because you're a wooden instrument, hence why you're part of the woodwind family, even though now you play a not so wooden instrument. So, and you're very, very audible now. Why do you love playing with Sav Phil?
So just my colleagues, it's such a well-rounded group of people who we are all from the major music schools coming together and blending a lot of different ideas, and we can talk to each other. There's no ego involved. If there's a problem, we address it, and that's a really lucky thing to have in an orchestra. That's not always the case. So it feels like a great place to make music. It's almost like having your own chamber music group, except that there's 80 people instead of 5.
Wonderful. Do you have any questions for me?
What are you looking forward to next season?
For me, the most important part about music, being a music director, is creating a sound, having a sound of an orchestra. And this is a process that will take several seasons, but just making sure that we have an identity, that when people come to hear the Sav Phil, then they know that this is our sound. When guest conductors, especially, and guest soloists come to Sav Phil, they leave remembering what our sound is like, and understanding what the group has to offer, and channeling in what I have to offer, and then finding a good middle ground, and then understanding that, then developing from there. So it's a process, but that's something that I'm looking forward to. And then the repertoire that I selected throughout the season really accomplishes that process, but it will take a course of several seasons until we reach a point where we can all agree, okay, this is who we are.
Right.
Oh, who?
This is Gaston the cat. He's decided to join us.
we have a furry visitor.
Right.
Does he want to say hello?
Sure, let's get him to turn around. Come on, Gaston. Nope, he's leaving.
No. Oh, that's so cute. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the interview. Please enjoy Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition, performed by your Savannah Philharmonic.